Sharon's life on The Young and the Restless is becoming a never-ending series of troubles, as she faces the consequences of her dark past. In this story, Sharon is at a conflicted crossroads between confessing to her loved ones what she has done, and continuing to be threatened by a ghost from her past, Cameron Kirsten. Sharon wants to confess to Nick and Mariah about all the crimes she has committed, especially the serious mistakes after her daughter Cassie passed away. She feels haunted and guilty for too long, and only by facing the truth can she escape the nightmare in her own mind. However, Cameron Kirsten, a scary ghost in Sharon's life, does not let her do that. Cameron threatens that if she dares to tell the truth, she will have to face the law and everything will fall apart beyond repair. To relieve her heavy heart, Sharon decided to visit Cassie's grave, where she could confess everything. She told Cassie everything that had happened since her daughter's death, from the wrong decisions to the crimes she dared not admit to anyone. In that moment, Sharon felt like she was ready to overcome all the pain, anger, and guilt of the past. However, she did not expect that the next series of events would drag her back into the spiral of concealment and lies. At a certain point, while Sharon was trying to keep things stable, Heather's phone, which was in her pocket, suddenly rang. It was Daniel trying to contact Heather to seek an explanation about Sharon's situation. Mariah, noticing this, asked Sharon if this was her new ringtone, but Sharon quickly gave another reason. She insisted that it was just a reminder to take her medicine, and took a pill as proof of her story. This brings some relief to Mariah and Nick, but they still can't fully trust Sharon, especially as the situation becomes more complicated than ever. Sharon continues to reassure Nick and Mariah that she has contacted her doctor and that her appointments are still going on as normal. She apologizes for worrying everyone, and although Nick and Mariah remain cautious, they can't deny that Sharon is trying to improve. They decide to leave to give her some time to calm down. As soon as Nick and Mariah leave, Sharon is haunted by Cameron Kirsten again. Cameron appears as a creepy figure, complimenting Sharon on her flawless performance in front of her family. Cameron also urges Sharon to calm down and reminds her of the cover-up she will have to take in the future. Sharon, while worried about continuing to hide the truth, has no choice as Cameron still controls her every thought. Tensions rise as Daniel and Lucy continue to search for Heather. To avoid detection, Sharon decides to impersonate Heather and send Daniel a text message. In the text, Sharon cleverly creates a story that Heather is very upset about Sharon's situation, and that she will be leaving town for a while to get her mind right. Daniel, worried about Heather, texts back and urges her to call him, but Sharon doesn't dare to answer for fear that everything will be exposed. Sharon's story doesn't stop at hiding the truth. Daniel, after receiving a text message from Heather, decides to share it with Lucy. Lucy, feeling remorseful and worried, blames herself for thinking that her mother's departure was her fault. However, Daniel comforts Lucy that if anyone needs to be blamed, it should be Sharon, who created all this trouble. Meanwhile, Lucy notices Heather's overnight bag and discovers that some of her clothes are missing. Daniel also notices that Heather's car has been abandoned, leading him to believe that she may have rented a car to get to the airport. Lucy panics at the thought that Heather may have left for Lisbon without a word, and that she will be away from her mother for an unknown period of time. While Daniel and Lucy investigate Heather's disappearance, Sharon is more worried than ever. She knows that the police will soon begin investigating her disappearance. However, Cameron continues to reassure Sharon, insisting that she has done a good job of covering her tracks. Cameron even goes so far as to say that Sharon is a queen of tears on demand, who can easily act and hide her emotions when needed. Cameron also theorizes that if Heather's body had washed up on shore, Sharon would have cried and pretended to be sad, as if she were mourning the loss of a woman she barely knew. Cameron even advised Sharon to act more aggressively, stating that once Sharon had thrown the first stone, she should continue to throw more to destroy the remaining enemies. Sharon is facing mysteries and mental stress that have fans wondering, is Heather really dead? Or is it all just a dream or hallucination in Sharon's mind? The story surrounding Heather's mysterious disappearance has opened up a series of complicated situations, as the main characters continue to learn about what really happened. After a simple but warm evening, Lucy and Daniel return to their apartment after enjoying ice cream at Society. In a light and happy mood, they expect to see Heather again in the apartment. However, when they enter, a cold and unusual feeling seems to cover the space. Heather is not there. Daniel, who was a bit nervous before returning home, now begins to feel increasingly uneasy. He receives a text message from Heather, but the content is not what he expected. In the message, Heather announces that she will not be coming home and plans to leave town for a job interview. Daniel immediately realizes something is wrong because this is not something Heather would do without notice. Furthermore, her sudden absence raises more questions for him. Lucy, who was full of hope to see her mother, also feels anxious when hearing this news. They sit on the couch together, the silence is suffocating as Daniel relays the bad news to her. In those moments, the silence and the feeling of unease gradually appear in the air, making both characters wonder about what is really going on. Meanwhile, a dark truth gradually emerges: Sharon may be the one behind Heather's disappearance. Did she really kill Heather to cover her tracks? If so, it is possible that Sharon took Heather's phone and impersonated her to send messages to Daniel, to clear all suspicion and create a fake story about Heather leaving town for an interview. However, a bigger question remains: did the murder really happen, or was it just part of a dream or hallucination that Sharon created? Given what the audience has seen from Sharon, who has faced many mental shocks and internal struggles, the possibility that she is confusing reality and fantasy cannot be ruled out. Heather could still be alive and working late, or she could even be at the police station in an unrevealed situation. This question remains a big mystery that the audience will gradually discover in the following episodes. While Heather's disappearance remains a mystery, Sharon returns home and tries to maintain a calm appearance in front of her family. At home, Sharon is seen with Nick, Mariah, and Faith Newman. With the burden of guilt weighing heavily on her mind, Sharon begins to show unusual signs. She reveals to her family that she has confessed to something important, but does not specify what it is. Nick, who is always cautious and suspicious, immediately questions what Sharon is confessing to. Meanwhile, Mariah, who has always cared deeply for her mother, is confused, not understanding the situation her mother is facing. The ambiguity in Sharon's confession makes the family atmosphere tense and full of suspicion. The audience is watching Sharon's every step with anxiety. If Sharon really did kill Heather, will she continue to hide the truth and continue to lie? Or will she have the courage to admit everything and face the legal consequences? This is the crux of the story, where the audience will witness the next developments of Sharon's internal struggle. Sharon's story cannot be complete without mentioning the appearance of Cameron Kirsten, a character who haunts her mind. Cameron, though no longer physically present, remains an important part of Sharon's mental life. Cameron's image often appears when Sharon feels stuck, like a ghost that constantly urges and controls her. While Sharon is dealing with guilt and fear for what she may have done, Cameron appears again and encourages her to continue covering her tracks. Cameron compliments Sharon on her excellent acting skills in impersonating Heather and urges her to stay calm to overcome any future police investigations. With each whisper Cameron makes, Sharon is pushed deeper into a spiral of lies and crimes. Even when Heather's body is discovered, Sharon can still cry and pretend to be heartbroken as if she is deeply mourning for someone she barely knew. Cameron, with his scheming and cunning personality, always tries to manipulate Sharon so that she can never escape from guilt and darkness. Will Sharon have the courage to admit everything before it's too late, or will she continue to let Cameron control her? This story, with its twists and mysteries, promises to bring dramatic and emotional moments to the audience.